Hey everyone, hope you're doing well. Welcome to the RegiCast. This is Reginald. Joining me is a very special guest, good friend of mine, Nora. Hi, Nora.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good.
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 So we're just gonna jump straight into it. I have a lot of things that I want to talk to you about. I'm excited to talk to you about. I think there are certain things that I would love to share, that I love for you to share with the audience.
Yeah.
So I would love to get right into it. But before we do that, I do want to always ask my first impressions question, right? So what was your first impression of me when we first met?
So I have like a metaphor for this. You know the metronome thing? When
Sure.
yeah. It felt like yours was so much faster than mine. I was like, whoa, like you're going at 100 miles a minute or something. And I was like, it was Prem server. Do you remember that Discord
Yeah.
server? Shout out to Prem wherever you are. Sorry, I'm talking like he's dead. I'm sure I hope he's doing good. And I remember you were talking to another like very energetic person, and I was just like, whoa. And the first thing I said to you, I think I remember it was, "Are you from New Jersey?" Because you reminded me of a friend of mine, and it seemed like you were almost offended, and I was like, okay, like, but yeah, I don't know, you felt like someone like I knew you or something. Like there was this intense energy that at first might be a bit like whoa, but also felt somewhat familiar, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And then yeah, so first impression was definitely like, this guy's gonna hate me. This guy hates me.
What the hell? Yeah, I think
Yeah,
you've told me that before. I don't know where that's coming from.
I think because I think when was it, 3 years ago or something? So I was much like more blast than now, if anyone can believe that, and slow and like shy, and so I felt like you just didn't have time for someone like that, like you'd be like, okay, next question, like talk faster, spit it out.
Yeah, I guess maybe.
So, but I like obviously as I got to know you, I was like, you're not that like that at all. Like maybe to some extent you can feel that way. Maybe if you're like typing a client, you might be like, this guy's so blast. But I feel like when you care about someone, you have more time for them, which is normal, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's cool. Yeah, I think my first impression of you, I think I told you my first impression of you when we met, is it was just the accent. Because I'm from the US, so British accent, yeah, I'm sure you get that a lot, but
Yeah, because
yeah.
like most of the community is not from the UK, so when they hear an accent, they're like, "Oh, you've got an accent." But to me, you guys have accents, So,
Really? Yeah, that's actually
yeah,
a good point. Yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
So it's just the accent, nothing. Do you
The,
remember anything else?
I don't think so. I think because it's like, yeah, I don't think we talked that much when we first started like hanging out.
Yeah, I actually don't remember how we became friends.
Yeah, me either.
Oh shit!
But that's
Well, I
that's
really
all
need to
good.
know now. Wait, give me a second.
Okay.
Dig deep in the memories. I think it was after a VC one time. Maybe we just DM'd and it was like something about what we were talking about was interesting. That's what usually happens. That's I think how I became friends with Alexa as well. Kind of like you just hear something and you're like, actually, I think I was being a bit punchy and you were like, oh, okay. Like you didn't just see me as a mope, You were like, this girl's not so bad. Maybe.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. All right, so I do want to kind of jump straight into some of these topics here.
Yeah.
The first one, which I think is the most important,
Mm.
is your health journey.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you want to
Bring up
share,
my
but
notes.
yeah, you have your notes. But basically, you've been on a journey for the past year, basically, or past 10 months.
Yeah.
Um, and it's been a pretty powerful journey. So I don't know if you'd want to share a little bit about what happened, how you got there, and
Yeah. So what happened was just basically, I think I mentioned this on Alexa's podcast, and I don't want to like repeat so much of the stuff. I'm looking out for the OEs, so I've made different notes, but just to quickly summarize for people who haven't seen that interview, I was I diagnosed myself with food addiction. Actually, I've been to the doctor a few times. Like, just, you know, they were like, oh, write down what you eat and do a food diary, which was not helpful. Anyway, so I was struggling with that for a few years during my 20s, kind of got sick of that. Lots of things were stacking. And eventually I feel like I reached that deathbed thing that Dave talks about, well, both Shan and Dave. And then I just made the decision to change the decision. It sounds so simple, but it wasn't simple. And I'm sure we can talk about that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, okay. So, yeah. So, I mean, my interest is, so just to clarify, so you lost over 100 pounds in about like 10 months. Right?
Yeah. And that is it's it's like automated now. It's not like I'm trying to lose any weight. I'm pretty much like foot off the gas.
Mhm.
But I think my lifestyle is just, essentially, I had a conversation with someone about this before, and it was like, instead of having a goal, kind of just let your body do its thing, like make sure you're doing the right thing. So I took my foot off the gas in terms of, I want to lose weight, and it became more of, I just want to be healthy. And so I do weigh myself occasionally. I can see change, I can feel changes, especially since I started going gym. Because I was actually quite worried. You know, when you start lifting, you're like, oh, I'm gonna get heavier because maybe I might start building muscle. So I had to mentally prepare for that and be like, you know what, if I gain a bit of weight, I'll just tell myself it's muscle or whatever. But actually it was the opposite. I continue to lose a bit of weight, but I can feel and I look, I think, more toned and stronger and stuff. So yeah. But yeah, basically, sorry, I just took that question somewhere else. Yeah, to answer your ST question, it was over 100 pounds.
Yeah, no worries. Which is impressive. I think I like
about average of 10 pounds a month, basically.
Yeah, that's a pretty big deal. So I did want to kind of like walk through, I guess, what I would describe as the psychology of what it was like for you to go on this journey, right? So the first major question I had was like, what was life like for you before losing this weight? Like, if you could like describe what your psyche was like, what you were feeling emotionally, where your mind was at, where your life was at, like what were things like for you before you started this journey?
Yeah, it's kind of hard to talk about, but like, just really depressed. And I don't think I realized how depressed I was, because of course all the distraction with the SE and the food and kind of like the TV shows and movies and stuff. So I was pretty much just in a numbed out state, constantly feeling the high from eating food and then crashing. I don't feel like my emotions were that consistent. I would say that it didn't affect me outwardly, you know, like people who are sort of coping addicts, you know, that kind of thing. I don't know what the term is. They kind of get by and people can't really notice, apart from obviously being very overweight. I was kind of maintaining my job, and, you know, I had some friends, mostly online at the time, some in person. But yeah, it was very isolated. I feel like when I was out in public, people would not make eye contact. No one would be like super nice. And now it's really different. What else? Just felt invisible. And actually, I remember at the beginning, like my early 20s, that felt really good, because before then I was the opposite of invisible. And then it somewhat felt nice to be invisible. It was weird. It was like a superpower. But then obviously it got more and more depressing, because I don't think any person on earth wants to be invisible permanently. It could be a power that you dip into, but not all the time.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you for sharing that. And then I think, so one of the things that you mentioned, and I think you mentioned this in the Alexa interview as well, is that you described yourself as being an addict to food. So
yeah.
I don't know if you want to kind of share what that means to you and what that was like.
So I attempted, I think this might answer some of the other questions, but I attempted to do fasting, and that kind of exacerbated the addiction, because all I would do was think about it and think about my next meal, and my life revolved around what my next meal would be, or what my variety. I was really addicted to variety as well, so it wasn't like I liked eating the same bad things. It was like, what's the next new thing that I can try? It's very SE. And if I didn't get that thing, I would be quite jittery, or it was mostly about takeaways and stuff. So when I would press that order button, it felt like the best thing ever. And then as soon as I pressed the order button afterwards, I felt quite sick and quite nervous and scared and anxious. And then I would get the food and I would just use the food to deal with the anxiety. And then the next day I would tell myself, I'm going to be able to do it on Monday. That, you know, the normal, on Monday, I'll start my diet. So,
Right.
yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. And then I think you even mentioned that you had to convince yourself that you were an addict, I think, at some point.
Yeah, because I think that the signs were kind of clear early on, but I didn't really see it as an addiction. I just thought I was just another overweight person who ate too much bad food. The identity of addiction was, I think, quite powerful in making me feel a level of like, not just shame, because actually that's quite bad, but self-compassion, because I tried to see myself as an addict, like an alcoholic or a drug addict. And that actually made me think, oh, I really need to take this seriously. This is not just I'm overweight. Because, you know, even in this culture of like body positivity, for a long time, I was kind of lulled into a sense of like, I'm fine and there's nothing wrong with me. And actually that was really negative, because there are objective, you know, I'm not saying that an overweight person has to lose weight. That's their thing. That's their TI. But I was kind of lying to myself that I was happy being overweight, and I wasn't. So it's about the addict identity sort of pushed me into like action. And I was like, okay, let me treat myself like someone outside of me, someone that I would give compassion to, and take it really slow with them to sort of taper them off that thing.
Got you. Okay, cool. And so let me ask, so you're sharing a little bit about what you started to do in order to overcome this addiction, but what was the turning point for you? So like, if you had to just like, let's say there's the version of you that was an addict and the version of you that started this journey of becoming not an addict. What was the turning point in your life, you would say, or the series of events in your life that led you to start this health journey? Like, was there a certain thing that happened? Was there a certain realization that you had? Like what was it?
I think it was feeling like a lot of things were against me, like people telling me, people close to me telling me, oh, you know, you should try the injection thing. Almost every time I saw them, the weight loss injection, or get surgery. Maybe not every time, maybe that's my brain exaggerating. Feeling like I wanted to kill myself. That was definitely part of it. Recording myself breaking down, sort of feeling that intense emotions and sadness, and then kind of watching that back and going, there's something really wrong here. And wanting to do it for myself. Yeah. So like saying screw you to the world, essentially, and going, I do have the ability to become my own superhero, to save my own life, and thinking about the future and the future children I would like to have one day, and feeling like I don't want them to have an addicted mother. If this is me now, I don't want to be that person in 10 years. I want them to actually have someone they can look up to. So really it was about helping people as well, and constantly going back to that. So even if I was in the addicted state and going through the motions of life as an addict, I would always come back to this future identity that was like a little baby NF blast that kept coming back. And I would watch videos on and motivational things that really helped. And there was this one that really got to me. And there are some others that I mentioned in Alexa's video, but like, it was like this bird that kept trying to fly and then would fall. And it made me so, I think I shared it with you.
I know that one. It's the one with the little yellow pellets or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think so, yeah. And I remember writing in the comments, I'm going to live this story of recovery one day. And then I came back 6 months later and I was like, not that anyone cared. Like there were a few likes, but I was like, I did it. And so it was that feeling of, I saw myself as that broken bird and I really wanted to fly. And I was like, I'm going to do it. And it was just coming back to that vision that wouldn't let go of me. And this feeling of, I want to help people who are addicts, but I'm an addict. So I've got to live it, test it out on myself, make sure it works, and then I can go help people. So essentially, like, weirdly enough, it was more tribe-based, what I wanted to do, but maybe also DI, because I was like, I want this to be my identity. If that, yeah. Hopefully that covers everything.
Yeah, no, I definitely want to circle back on the identity change.
Yeah.
How you would recommend other people do that, because I think that it's challenging to change your identity. So like towards the end, I'll probably circle back around and ask you about that. So let me just ask you about like the actual journey of the lost weight. So once you made this identity change, there are things that you tried and things that you failed at and things that you succeeded at. So I guess let me ask, like, what did you try to lose the weight, and what worked and what didn't work?
So before the big change, like the thing we just talked about with the bird, I had tried things that had like tried and failed them. But after that, from August 1st, nothing had really failed. I just started a journey and I knew that I had to make small changes, and it kept working. But in January, I had a slight sort of dip. And I think that really slowed my weight loss down a little bit because I had tooth surgery and like this other thing. Anyway, so are you asking about from August till now? Or are you asking in general in life, what have I tried, what failed?
I'm thinking in general, yeah, like
Okay.
from the beginning of this journey.
Well, I tried all the different diet books, basically. I tried intermittent fasting. Ultimately, I'm not sure. It just didn't work because it didn't feel balanced to me. And I don't want to blame everything else. I want to blame myself and say it was probably me, because I kept having this mindset of it's just a diet. I'll be able to have a cheat day as a reward. When I lose this weight, I'll be able to have a reward day. It was this constant of I'll go back to living a certain way. And that never, ever helped. So I wouldn't really focus on the ST of what did I try and what did I not try, because it's not this magic formula of what I did now that helped. It was more of a mental shift and an NF change, and also looking at it like forever. And I think part of me couldn't hold on to that. I was like, what do you mean forever? These foods are cool. These foods are part of my identity. I love pizza. I love pasta. Like, I'm never going to let them go. And I think the most surprising thing about this journey is how movable I am on the inside and how malleable I am. And I used to see that as a weakness. And to an extent it is, because before, if people wanted to sort of move me and that kind of thing, it kind of affected me negatively. But now I see it as a power, because yes, my principles can change, but on this journey, I found a way to make them change for the better each time. And the core principle doesn't change. That one about, I want to be the best version of me that I can be. I couldn't see that in a few months, I would be able to go to the gym, or in a few months, I would be able to quit pizza. So at the beginning, it was, I'll be able to do this thing. I needed the sensory evidence that I could do that, to have faith in myself to change another thing. And then the next time I would change, I would be like, well, I have to have fiber bars, right? You need fiber, and this is my treat. So that was part of my journey in December, and I would still have those things. And then after a while, I'd question it, being able to question my identity and going, why is this part of my identity that I need a treat every day? Who told me that? Where does this come from? And then I changed that as well. And I do see it as an identity thing, because it's such a huge fear of mine to be like, I'm letting go of the freedom to have chocolate. And it's like, no one's controlling me. If I control myself, there is a bigger sense of freedom. I get to do more OE in different ways, in healthy ways. Mm-hmm. So eventually I cut out other things. And it's not a sense of I cut it out like forever. If I deem it necessary to enjoy this thing with people, yeah, I'll do that. But in my day-to-day, I search for things that are going to help me, are healthy, have a point to them. Like, not wasteful things that I'm like, food is not purely entertainment. It's nutrition. We need to eat to survive. Like, it's not a sense of I'm eating for my high today. I get my highs, not highs, but I feel more content and like neutral most of the time now, which is so much better. And I can find little things to make me feel happy. But don't get me wrong, the foods I do eat are freaking delicious, and I cook for myself. And I feel like even if I'm out with people and I go to a restaurant, I'm still making decisions that ultimately I'm like, I like how this tastes and it's really good, nutritious. And I don't know, that's who I am now. Although I want to say that letting go of identity and being a more stoic person is so much better for you than going, this is who I am. Because who you are changes, and that's so much better because it can change for the better if you control your ship, which I do now.
Right. Okay. And so, like, what was it? So, like, let me ask you this: like, what was it like for you emotionally to lose the weight? Like, what was that journey like for you from an emotional standpoint?
Yeah, I think I said that before, like super lonely and stuff, but also kind of tough because suddenly people would feel like it was cool to like comment on how I looked and be like, you know, this. I've even had comments like I brought in some chocolate for my students, and kind of ironic. I should be bringing in fruit, but they probably wouldn't eat it. So this woman was like, "Oh, is that for you? Make sure you don't gain all the weight back." And I was like,
Okay.
"Yeah."
Yeah.
Before, previous Nora would have punched back. Okay. I walked on. I walked on. I laughed. I was like, "This is a projection. This is her projection. This is something that she's in the moment. Maybe it's not even super serious. It's just like a random comment, but it comes from her, and it's not on me." And I think part of the journey has been learning how to navigate tribes, especially as demon masculine DE. I'm like, don't look at me. Don't comment. I don't want to do the SF play game, but I've had to do it so much since, and it's been tough. But I definitely feel so much better doing it. I think that's one of my notes. So let me quickly, give me a quick 1 second. Yeah, it's pushed me to have thicker skin. It's made me see it as a game. SF play is a game, interactions with people about, like, I like it when people, you know, they might give me advice or they might ask for my advice, and I'm just like, this is okay. But I've noticed so many times when I felt unsteady because someone's made a comment, and I've just been like, does this mean they thought I was a monster before, or blah blah blah? And it's so stupid because it doesn't. I shouldn't see it as negative, you know. And so part of that journey was stopping and going, it's not negative or positive. This is on them. It's not on me. Let me react with kindness and assume the best. So, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
I'm still kind of stuck on the one lady, what she said. I'm a little bit kind of pissed at that, but that's okay.
Thank you for being pissed for me.
You said what?
Thank you for being angry.
Yeah, it's just,
I don't know why. That's nice.
but yeah, so okay, so in terms of that, you've been sharing a lot about what mindset has been working for you. Did you have any, I guess, realizations throughout this journey that helped you through, like anything that clicked for you about, hey, you know what, this is the best way to go about losing weight? I mean, I know, for example, in our previous conversations, we've had conversations about like making 1% improvements and things like that. Was there any like insights like that really struck you and helped you on this journey?
I think it was kind of similar to what I said earlier. I'm just going to build on that a little bit about identity. It was realizing that I don't know myself, as in I should not make decisions for future me based on who I am now. And that sounds strange. It's like, okay, but am I picking who I will be? It's more so that I'm like, don't be scared to let go of this thing that was part of your identity in lieu for something better. I hope I use that word in the right way. It's just this sense of just this realization that, oh my God, am I malleable? And oh my God, is that amazing? Like, just, I used to have SE proof of things, but now I'm like, if someone says, hey, you wanna start, you know, rock climbing, or you want to go canoeing, before I'd be like, no, I know I don't like that. And now it's like, let me try it. Let me see, you know, I could become that person. I could become someone who does that. And it's not, I could become that person. It's more like, I am not that person, nor am I me. There is no me. I am just a set of sort of actions and things that are going along this journey. And that's so much more freeing than having an identity and being like, who am I? It's like, who gives a, you know, just live life with a good set of principles, keep bettering yourself, but not to the point where you're like, oh my God, did I surpass my goals? But do I feel content today? Have I expressed gratitude today? Have I contacted a friend? All these things that actually make a life more well-rounded and balanced. And not attaching to an identity is the best thing I could do. And I don't know why before. I don't know why. Sorry, whenever I say I don't know why, I hear Shan's voice. Demon NI. But yeah, so I don't know why I used to attach and kind of reject things. And now I'm so much more open to learning and being like, yeah, let's try this thing. I'm not scared. Someone says, hey, let's try a 7-day fast. I'll be like, hey, let's do it.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Right. That's cool. Okay. So then I would say then my next question is like, how has life changed for you now that you've lost this weight? So it's been a 10-month long journey, 10-month and a half long journey.
Yeah.
What has changed and what has stayed the same is really my question. Right. So I mean, what has changed? Obviously, we've lost the weight, right?
Yeah.
I know you've mentioned people talking about your appearance, so it's like how, you know, that's changed. Is there anything else that you believe has changed about yourself or about how people treat you or anything like that?
It's a good one. People are nicer. So that's a quick summary. That's it. The world is effed, okay? So bad how we treat people differently when they look different. It's so bad. I get it though. Like I ended up trying to like rationalize it and I was like, okay, people actually tend to be drawn to people who look healthier. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, okay, so which is kind of really weird because think about all the different people who are marginalized or who get treated differently because they don't look normal, you know?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. It's so hard to like, you kind of had to like let it go and be like, okay. Yeah. But then on the other hand, it might be because it might be respect, especially people I know.
Yeah.
I feel like people I know, work with, there's a bit more like respect, a bit more like, I think the best compliment I ever received was someone saying, just randomly, you've been on a mission. I was like, yeah, thank you. That was awesome. But yeah, no, just I think that's the best thing is like feeling a bit more respected. It's kind of sad, but I think I'd like to think it's because of what I've been doing and not because of how I look. Does that make sense?
Okay. Let me ask you, has your relationship with yourself changed in a similar way? Like, do you look at yourself differently?
Yeah. Well, so I saved my life, right? I see it that way. Rebirth, the hero's journey, coming back. I see myself as a superhero.
Mm.
I feel strong. Yeah, I feel really tough. Feels good.
That's good. Yeah. Okay. So I was gonna ask you what your superhero name would be, but
Nora the Explorer. No. Andrea Tate. No.
Oh my gosh.
Oh my God. I had some students call me Top G teacher, and I was like, okay.
Oh my goodness.
No, I don't know what my superhero name would be. You guys can pick it.
That's funny. And so, okay, so I guess is there anything that has not changed? So it's like, even though you've like lost this weight and gone on this journey and become the superhero, is there anything that you still, I don't know if struggle with is the right word, but is there anything that's still the same? Basically?
I still take things too literally.
Okay.
Yes. I'm still ST.
Okay.
I would say there's a confidence that I had already that hasn't changed, but now
Okay.
I feel like it's reflected in my physical form. It's something that I really wanted for a long time, is to feel like I make sense and I'm congruent, like the inside and the outside match. And now I feel like that's working. Anyway, something that hasn't changed. You tell me, you know me since before and after, so you answer your own question.
Okay, fine. So I recently watched interview you had with Kendrick that was about 4 years ago.
Yeah.
And honestly, just the way that you express yourself is very similar. I mean, you still have all of the same mannerisms, I think. You still have the very like sharp intellect, I think. So it's very I don't think those things have changed at all. I would say the essence of who you are hasn't changed, if that makes sense. I don't know if that makes any sense, but that's how I see it.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. I was watching that interview the other day as well, and I was like, oh wow, that has not changed. Why do I do that face? It's so annoying. And like, why do I like move my hands like that? And like, animatronics, they are the same. I'm still double masculine, despite, I don't know, looking more feminine, maybe. I don't know.
Right.
Actually, I feel more double masculine now because I feel like I have permission.
What do you mean?
I don't know. Like before, I would like try to not take up space, and I would be like a bit quiet, maybe, or a bit like. I mean, I was still double masculine, but I feel like I was just minimizing myself. I would like straighten my hair. I would be like, can't have curly hair. People are going to think I'm a monster. And now I'm like, whatever, it's messy.
Why would
I don't
you
care.
Sorry.
No, because it's just big sometimes. And like, if I felt big, I had to like start narrowing down what I could narrow down. Does that make sense?
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. I think it was only like February this year that I let my hair go natural, and I was like, it's okay. It's all good. Yeah.
Okay. Nice.
What was the question? Oh yeah, you told me. So basically the animatronics haven't changed, essentially.
Yeah.
Okay. What's next?
Okay, so I would say I don't know if there is one question from the there's a group chat actually.
Oh, I have not been looking.
Yeah, so there is
you look, I don't want to look.
I got you. So there's a question from Yush, Y-U-S-H. So the question is in regards to maintaining mindset that requires to have consistency of looking at food as nutrition and not as indulgence.
What was the question?
So let me see if I can. How do you maintain the mindset of looking at food as nutrition and not as indulgence?
I don't know. It just hasn't changed, and I don't think it will because of how much it saved my life. It's like, it makes so much sense. And to me, in my personality, when something makes sense, it's like, it's deeply embedded. And it's how I feel like I'm going to protect myself and take care of those kids that don't exist yet. You know, it's like a path that I'm on. Like I said in Lex's interview, I don't think I can veer off it. I still see, for example, like if I go out with like friends or family and they're like, we're having something, I'm not going to say, I must not have this. It's not nutritionally beneficial. It's more like, I'll have a bit, but I know that it's just fake food. You know, it's not really like what I should be having. And also, I don't know, like this idea of this journey being like the whole, I think Stormzy came out with a song recently, it was like Longevity Flow. And I listened to it and I was like, wow, he's coming out with these tracks like at the time that it makes the most sense to me. And I was like, this is the point that I'm at now. It's about longevity. It's about continuing to craft, not this identity, because again, I don't think identity is the key, but to craft this sense of this is the mission. This is how I take care of myself. Yeah. Hope that answers your question.
Hopefully that answers their question. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, great. So I would say let's put the health journey aside a little bit.
Cool.
And let's just kind of move on. So one of the journeys that I'm actually interested in for you is your professional journey. So right now you're an English teacher, is that right? I don't know what grades do you teach?
So in the UK, it would be year 7 to year 13. So I'm actually teaching children from age 11 to 18.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so it's like I'm really interested in seeing what that journey was like for you, because it's like I'm very curious about how people choose their careers, basically. And especially like with OP, given your type and stuff like that, you know, so you being last, how that's been like and stuff like that. So I think the first question is like, why did you choose to become an English teacher?
I've always had so ever since I was a kid, I like reading. I've always had a fascination with TV shows, films, books, and how those things connect to me in my journey, or like as in my life, and just what they mean, the meaning behind these things. And I always felt them quite deeply or whatever. And this idea of like discussing them in an environment with other people or writing about them has always made me feel good. And that's why I liked studying English, and why I'm still studying it now. I'm doing a master's part-time, which I'm wrapping up in September. But this idea of discussing it with young people whose minds are different to mine, who I can learn from as well. I feel like I learn from them every day. So if any of my students are listening, thank you. But yeah, so it's this idea of being in an environment where we're discussing things that feel meaningful. Like I wanted to teach maths for a bit. Like I was like, oh, teaching English seems like a lot of work. There's no right or wrong answer. It's not black and white. It really annoyed me at the beginning. I was like, how are we grading this thing? It's not fair. But then after a while, I saw like how to teach maths, and I was like, there's no discussion of life. I want to discuss life. Right. And so I think that's why I like doing that. And if you know, you can ask not that you would come across my students, but in the lessons, we always kind of find a way, or I find a way to relate it to real life, to like make sure they can kind of see like, okay, how is this character experiencing something that you can relate to, or how does this impact you? And we always share stories about like consumer reports and stuff, and it's quite enjoyable to learn from that.
Right. And when you say consumer reports, what do you mean?
Well, so I might open up with like, okay, this character's going through this thing about feeling a random emotion, shame, regret, something. And then I'll be like, so I experienced something like this and blah, blah. And then doing that helps them open up as well. And then they'll put their hand up and be like I'll be surprised, like it'll be one person, then it'll be two, then it'll be 8. And I'm like, we're all talking about this thing. And then it makes the writing process more meaningful as well, because then we start actually going, this is more interesting. You know, when like a teacher goes, oh, just write about something that you experienced to make the story better. Well, if you get them to discuss it a bit, it's like a warm-up activity. They can actually go, oh, okay, I remember this in more detail now. I can do this.
Right. Nice. That's cool. English, yeah. English has always been a subject that I struggled with, honestly. So it's like I admire.
Really?
Yeah.
No, but like your masculine SI, I feel like you're very like specific with word choice, and you like writing. So you like writing more than I do.
Yeah, but still, English was hard. I struggled to pay attention. So it's like I admire the fact that you're teaching. I think English is, or like English / literature is one of the most intellectually demanding of like the high school subjects. Just because it's like you can't necessarily wing an interpretation of things, right? Or you can't necessarily wing a good essay, right? Like there are certain things that go into play.
That makes me feel good, because I feel like when I write university essays like a few nights before, I'm like, I'm winging this.
Oh.
But I see what you mean. I don't know. I feel like if it's interpretation, you can kind of wing it, no? Because you're just exploring it from your experience of life, your subjective thing.
That's true, but I think that in terms of expression, there's better and worse ways of expressing yourself. And I think that in English, it's like they kind of not force you, but they're teaching you how to express yourself in a way that is clear, right?
Sure.
And I think that I still struggle with that, to be honest with you. So it's like I just, anyway, that's just a little aside.
No, we can talk about you. I mean, like, I'm sure people who are watching are very happy to see you back. I'm excited. You guys are welcome, by the way.
Oh my goodness. Sure.
Sorry, you're like DE, like, no, don't look at me.
Yeah.
Well, I'm excited that you're back anyways. So thank you for having me, by the way.
Yeah, no problem. So let me ask you, what was it like? So in terms of your education, So what was it like getting educated to become an English teacher? So it's like, did you study like an English degree? Like what was the career path like in terms of
Yeah.
university?
Yeah, so I wanted to study English, English literature. I did pharmacy for a couple years before that, but it wasn't really like my dream, and I kind of was doing it for other reasons, and other people. Blaming the tribe, masking DE. Anyway, studied English, studied to be a teacher. It was a 1-year training course. In the UK, it's called a PGCE, which is actually really. Okay, I'm going to stop giving sensory. What's your question? Yeah, that's it. Like you do an English degree and then you do a training course and then you're a teacher.
Okay. How long does that process take? Like
Yes.
4 years?
Yeah.
Okay. And how, like, I guess, what did you learn? Like, if you had to describe what your classes were like, what were they teaching you in those classes?
So I did screenwriting in the first year. I've done American fictions. I've done like Gothic literature. I've done like short story writing. It was international film as well. So interestingly, it wasn't like specific to one type of text or novel. It was everything: poetry, the film version, the film form, TV form. I think that's what really got me excited. Was I was like, wait, reading is cool, but I can watch stuff.
Right.
Yeah. I think that's why I'm like doing a podcast about like TV and film, because I'm like, I like analyzing stuff and it not being, because books take a while to read, right? You can consume books quickly, I'm sure, but TV shows, it's just richer sensory wise sometimes. I know some bookworms are going to be like, oh, blasphemy. And you know what? I probably need to get back into books a bit more. But I prefer reading books that are analytical now, like more like about literature or about art or about like critical theory. I like reading critical theory, philosophy, psychology, and then I'll watch fiction and then use that lens to analyze it through this. Okay, let me stop. I'm not Englishing. I'm sorry.
It's fine.
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, that's a lot. That's a wide range of things that you were kind of exposed to. Did you have like
Yeah.
a favorite? Like, I mean, other than the TV and film, were there any aspects of that you like enjoyed the most in your education?
I think American fiction. I don't know what it was about American fiction. I really enjoyed looking at like Falling Man, Don DeLillo, a lot of things that I guess related to my background as well, because I'm Iraqi and there's a big tie between the Middle East and America. And I think understanding America and American values kind of helped me understand like why are they such a controversial like entity in the world, and like what have they done to other countries and to people, and sort of studying the history of that was really interesting.
Nice.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay. And okay, so I know that was some of the things that you enjoyed. Was there anything about your education that you found frustrating or challenging?
Creative writing. I was in a screenwriting unit, and oh my god, getting someone to like respond to your writing and going, this is basically crap, especially when they ask you to like write it about something personal, it's so frustrating. Like I know like a screenwriter now, and I'm like, how do you respond when someone critiques your story, because it's literally your story? And it's quite tough, I think, to be a writer. I don't think at that time I was like good at that or tough enough. I think I would be better now, but also I don't think I'm very creative. I think I'm just more analytical, and so I admit that's a weakness, I think. So it wasn't enjoyable because I wasn't good at it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Got you. Was there anything else, or is it just that?
I don't really like analyzing poetry so much. I like reading it, but I think it's too abstract for me to analyze.
That's true. Yeah. Yeah. Poetry's hard.
Thank you for saying that. Because you're Savior NF, and I'm like,
Poetry's hard. No, poetry can definitely be hard. Okay, so then you went through your education, you went through the 4 years.
Yeah.
Talk to me about how you landed your first job as an English teacher. Like, what was that like for you?
It was, I think I talked about it in Kendrick's interview, actually. It was 4 years ago, literally. And it was a school that I was training at, and they had a position available, but I had to interview, of course, and do a class sort of demonstration thing. And I remember it being very nerve-wracking. I think it would be because it was my first like professional job. Before then, I'd only had like part-time jobs and stuff. Yeah, so it was just a normal interview and class interview process, and I felt quite supported because it was at the school that I was training at. So I think the system here kind of helps you with that. If you don't get the school you're training at, you just have to do the same thing, but at like other schools.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay, that's cool. That's cool. Okay, and then so what challenges did you face when you first started teaching? Like, because I feel like that's like a big transition from like just studying to actually teaching 11 to 18-year-olds, especially 11, 18-year-olds. Like, I'm imagining there's quite a lot that goes into that.
Yeah, they gave me hell. It was a good time. It was really tough because I didn't really like to control. I didn't really like to like have complete control. It was very hard for me to do that. And yeah, behavior issues were a problem at the beginning. And actually, I don't know, like, I guess giving them the right information in the right way, being clear, it's been hard, but it's so much easier now for sure. I still tell my classes like, oh, you guys know I don't really like to talk, right? I spend 20 minutes, I'm going to be quiet now. And then they're like, yeah, we know. But like, I think it gives a good balance to the lesson because I'll do that sort of lecture style, like giving information and talking about things and asking questions. And then there's always a little like pause where they have time to do their talking and their explaining and explaining back to me, and giving them room to blast is really great because you learn through blasting. And actually doing this job has helped me understand literature a lot more, and it's helped me in my master's as well. But yeah, definitely the beginning, there were behavior issues. It was definitely difficult to control the class.
Yeah.
And now it's a lot easier. Definitely. I think being an EP helped, whereas before I was like, I was also an EP, but it didn't help. It was weird. It's like I had to find my way. And yeah, if you want to ask any follow-up questions.
I definitely have follow-up questions. What ended up working for that? Like, because it's like, I feel like I don't think I could teach 11 to 18-year-olds. I'm not sure how I'm going to manage having children, but like, I don't know how you did that. So it's like, from the behavioral issues, well, I guess let me first ask, what behavioral issues were you experiencing? And then I'll ask, like, how did you deal with that?
So I think there were issues like obviously talking, throwing paper across the room, throwing pens across the room was bad. Fights and stuff like that. I don't know the moment that it started to become easy, but I think after the first year of teaching, it becomes easier somehow. And I kind of feel like when you feel more confident in yourself, and I mean, I don't know, it was even before my journey, the health journey, that I was able to control the class. So I wouldn't say it was sort of because I changed or anything, although it has helped a lot. For some reason, it has helped. But yeah, I would say that, so feedback from others, because I don't really like to talk about myself from this subjective standpoint. So I'll just give you some, because we have to get feedback from other teachers. Professional development wise, we get observed. That's the word I was looking for. Observations, and we get feedback. So other teachers have kind of said that I have a very calm way with the children, with the students. Calm, controlled. I don't really react to things like crazy or like too much. I don't really need to shout. It kind of, one day I was watching someone, I was telling someone about this, and they were like, oh, that reminds me of that class. You know, the guy who like controls the dogs? What class is that? NFJ, I think.
I know who you're talking about. I don't remember.
Yeah, I don't remember his name, but something Caesar. Am I being
Caesar Milan?
Yes, I was like, am I being racist? Like, yeah. So I watched that. I was like, oh, that's so cool. I feel like I have that with them. Not that obviously they're different, but there is just this sense of, if I maintain composure and I maintain, like, if I set the thermostat, the feeling thermostat, FE, which I think is what I'm doing, they react, they reflect. And there is a sense of just, yeah, calm demeanor really helps. Not being someone that can be pushed around as well. Like that's really important. Not going, oh yeah, cool, go with the flow too much. You have to have boundaries and stuff like that. And yeah, I wish I could say more. I think it's always other people who tell me about it that's how I understand myself, because they're seeing me from the outside. But it's definitely a sense of like, anyway, my relationship with the students is, as soon as I started to be interested in them and like learn more about them, it really helped, because it develops this relationship of this teacher isn't just here to teach, but actually wants to understand us enough to maybe teach us in a way that we like or make sense. I've had like a class where there was something going on outside, like a behavior issue generally in the school, okay? And they had an assembly, and afterwards they came to my lesson, and I knew about this assembly, this emergency assembly they had to have. And I sat down with them and I was like, what's going on? Like, let's all talk as a class. Like, let's pause this lesson for today and let's actually discuss how you guys have been feeling, what's been happening, why is there a rift between you and teachers, and how I can help new teachers who are coming along to help them. And so they were kind of like, Miss, like, you respect us, Miss, you listen to what we have to say, you kind of like adapt to us as like each person has their own way, and like you kind, it's that kind of thing. I don't know what that means about me or the animal stack or the personality thing, but it's definitely something I think that is a strength of mine. And so I might not be the best blaster, especially not ST blast, because that's not even in my thing, right? But I try to learn from other teachers when it comes to that stuff. I definitely think that because I have this curiosity and desire to learn, I remember this woman who is a friend now, that I saw as, I didn't really like her at first. I was like, whoa, she's like too on her job. I was like, she's not cool. She's just not going to like me. She's thinking about a waste of time. I kind of felt like that about you. Remember when I was saying that before?
Right.
I felt that way about her. And then I was like, I saw the FI and I was like, aw, she's a softie. And so we became friends. And even after we became friends, I was like, you're my mentor, right? And she's like, no, I'm not. And I was like, yeah, you are. Like, you're amazing. I remember one time we were sitting down and she was like, oh, I don't just have a plan B, I have a plan A to Z. And I was like, what? You have a what? She was like, I've got this plan for this kid and this kid and this kid. And I was like, yeah, yay, you're my mentor. And then so ever since, I just keep coming back to her, and I hope that I at least give her something back, like friendship or whatever, to make up for it. Right. Make up for being such a mentee. But yeah, bowing down. Am I doing the DE? You're
doing the DE just fine. Yeah. So it's like, I mean, I'm assuming you still enjoy your role. Is there anything meaningful about your role? Like anything that you really enjoy about your role that you'd like to share? Just in case someone who wants to teach out there.
Okay, if anyone who wants to teach. Okay, what's really rewarding is seeing people change, seeing people want to be better, seeing people learning from them, their happiness, their joy, their like own thing going on. And it's kind of like just being around that. It's like really cool. And finding ways to make them interested in the work and seeing their like response and being like, wow, I got them to enjoy this, or wow, they got to like learn this thing, or wow, the student's coming to me with her poetry. She feels comfortable enough to do that. That's such a gift. And so I just think it's the day-to-day, the chaos and the moments of calm and the moments of connection. It's a job where you never watch the clock. Day goes by like this. So if you like your weekends, it's pretty good.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. And then the last question I had in regards to your profession is, you know how like, so there's this saying that to a hammer, everything's a nail, right? So basically meaning that depending on what you do or depending on what you do, your view of life changes basically. How has your view of life changed by becoming an English teacher? Do you see the world differently because you're an English teacher?
Do I see the world differently? I don't know.
You don't know.
I know I had this question before and I should have known the answer, I should have prepared. I guess if I could, do I see the world differently? I see the world as more fun. Because when you're like working with like teenagers all the time, you kind of see the funny side of things. You don't take things so seriously. And like life definitely feels a lot more like, yeah, whatever, like go with the flow. And I kind of just see hope. And I think it's down to them. And like, I think if I were in an office job or a job where I was just working with adults all the time, I might forget what it was like to be a student or a teenager and forget what it was like to have that sort of spirit and that like feeling of what will today bring, you know? And I think obviously someone might be like, oh, but you're SC, of course you're going to feel that. And it's like, no, I think I get lost in that sleep world a little bit, and the being around young people helps bring out the play. So I definitely think I'm a bit more like energetic, energy wise. It's definitely like changed my energy and outlook on life. And I guess I also look at like old people older than me and kind of think, especially if they're sort of out of touch with things, it's like, okay, in a way, they're also like teenagers. So if you kind of treat everyone that way, you're kind of like, okay, even members of the public. I remember being in like a restaurant or something once, and there was this fight breaking out between two grown men. And I was like, I can deal with this. I deal with teenagers. Excuse me? It was just this kind of confidence and like, I'm so stupid. Yeah, it's this feeling of like, you're supposed to take control. You're supposed to be the responsible one in the world. Yeah.
Nice. No, it's good to hear. Okay. So that's pretty much, I mean, we could talk about your dissertation a little bit. I don't want to like keep harping on the English thing, but we could talk about your dissertation a little bit if you're comfortable sharing like what you're doing for your dissertation.
Yeah, like just a brief overview, I guess. It's about work culture, interestingly enough, and how like work affects our like responses to trauma and memory and identity, and essentially how work attempts to change your identity, and your body is kind of a constant. So I somehow managed to bring in my journey into it and like kind of this idea of stoicism. I'm analyzing two shows, so two sci-fi shows. One is Dollhouse, the other is Severance. So if you've watched them, feel free to contact me about this dissertation if you want to talk about these shows. And basically in both shows, the protagonist in some way or another ends up losing their identity and goes to work for this corporation that is that starts to, I guess, give them meaningless work. And so I'm kind of using these shows as a metaphor for how we treat work in this day and age, and how about hustle culture and this kind of thing, and how we're so removed from actually understanding ourselves and reflecting on us, and how work can be such a distraction from that. And I want to kind of, my conclusion at the moment, though it might change over the summer because I have to do a lot of research, is that if you look at these two protagonists, they both ultimately detach from their identity, go on this hero's journey for the sake of saving everyone else and for the sake of defeating the corporation. And so it's this idea of if you, it seems like their body is a constant. The body seems to have a kind of identity of its own. It remembers trauma. So I want to look at this book called The Body Keeps Score. I think some people might know about it. And I want to kind of talk about that. So I've kind of split it into looking at how work changes our identity, looking at how capitalism or like work culture thrives off of pain, because in both shows, it's about if you come to it with pain and trauma, let's just take away your memories and help you detach. Let work be the thing that you focus on for this corporation. And so one chapter is going to be about that. The other chapter is going to be about how identity is shifted due to work. And the third chapter is going to connect both and look at the body, how the body is the constant thing, because both protagonists who lose their identity or memories or whatever, right? It's almost like the body is reintegrating the trauma into the life that they're living, kind of like this fight or flight thing. I know I'm kind of probably losing the audience now. Anyway, I'm going to tie it into stoicism, and if you're interested, contact me. I'm on Facebook. Okay.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I'll just say this briefly. I really admire that you're being able to teach and study for your master's at the same time. Like that is a commitment. I don't know how. I honestly don't know how you do that.
Lastminute.com, using holiday time to study. That's basically it.
Lastminute.com. What's that?
Oh, me. I do things last minute.
Oh, sorry. Okay. I was like, what website is this?
ChatGPT? No. No, also because the whole teaching thing obviously gives me like some weeks off so I can focus on uni. But it has been intense, not really having a break. Like I'm looking forward to, after doing this, having holiday time to myself.
Right. Got you. Okay. No, but that's cool. So I do want to talk a little bit about OP. I think both of us, I don't know how, I know we've
We're
talked.
tapped out.
Huh?
We're tapped out. We resigned a long time ago, right?
Yeah. I haven't really been keeping up with OP. I've been paying attention to social types recently, personally.
Oh yeah, because I wonder why.
Yeah, why? What are you trying to say?
Read my mind, Anna.
Okay, whatever. But I will say that's basically how we met. We've been using OP terms throughout this interview. But I do think OP is still kind of like a part of like how we view things and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So I did want to kind of ask you a few questions about like your type and how you've been processing things. I know you probably said this stuff before, but
yeah, we're gonna lose a lot of people. I don't even know if anyone's watching.
There's a few people.
Oh yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, what was the question? Tell me the question.
Okay, so I'll start. So I mean, the first question is like the basic question is like, what have you processed about your OP type?
What have I processed about my OP type?
Yeah, like things like NT sleep, being double masculine, having masculine DE, like that type of stuff. Like, is there anything that you've processed that you really find insightful?
Reading my notes. I've already talked about malleability and how being double feminine in a world is really useful. I'm sort of showed me, I was surprised at what I can do. And I was surprised at how changeable my identity is. Like, for example, you're SI, right? Masculine SI. Let's say you love, at Halloween, you love getting candy, okay? Sorry, my hair looks crazy. And you have to do that thing. So I was like, yep, at Halloween, I'm probably going to have to do this. So it was like a few months into my journey. And I was like, I was ready to make peace with the fact that I was going to get candy. And this sounds so silly, right? But
right.
I love Halloween. You can call me a baby if you want. So I go to the store, basket in hand, like, let's go. And then I go to the candy aisle and I'm like, I pick stuff up. I look at it. I put it back. I can't put it in the basket. I don't know what's wrong with me. I've been possessed.
Okay.
I'm like, huh? Who's this? Who is this? And I changed. And I was like, all right, I don't really want this thing. Interesting. Another time, I don't know, I was coming back late and I was like, it's okay if I have a kebab. It's okay. It's only one time. I'm doing so well on my journey. I can do this one time. Go up to the store. The guy's like, yep, like, how can I help, basically? And I'm like, I look down at the food and it looks like oily and bad. And I'm like, nothing. And I like walk off and I go to the store and I get a bottle of water or something. And I think I got like a sandwich or whatever. And that was quite early, or like a few months in. And then after that, I was like, I don't even need this thing. Like I don't know. So it's like FF identity in a world for once was serving me well. I changed without knowing I changed, and it was great. It was so awesome. Okay. OP. Honestly, I don't know. Oh, okay. Do you remember that time when I was like, guys, I'm processing appearance and SF. I don't know and then some deltas, shout outs to my deltas. You guys are amazing. We're talking about SF sleep. I think Alexandra and like a bunch of people, maybe Natasha, and how like SF sleep is so personal. And I was like, yeah, of course. Oh yeah. SF play is just this, it's the spectrum. But if I remember that everyone in a way has their own SF sleep, like, you know, you have a, like, you know what you like, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's such a relief to remember SF sleep exists, because it's like, I will always be some form of someone's SF sleep, you know? If that makes sense.
What do you mean?
Okay, so I was processing SF and like appearance and stuff and things like that. And I don't know, just hearing that SF can be quite personal, and it doesn't have to be this objective thing that you're looking at, like the models or the magazines or anything like that. Like it's some stupid stuff. And I was like, yeah, it's like I needed that reminder that actually beauty is subjective. Because I was trying to like ST it and be like, no, it's this, it's SF, it's this. And I've had discussions with other SF, like an SF play savior, who's discussed like actually finding it a problem as well, finding the comparison game sort of annoying. And it's been such an important thing to let go of the comparison game. Even though it's a demon for me, it's double masculine, so it's something I'm aware of. But actually, even going to the gym now, I don't do the comparison game. I'm more like one big room full of bad, you know? That's what it is. I don't know if you know that lyric, but anyways, I'm like, yeah, this is amazing. I'm in an environment with so many like amazing people, and I'm not doing the comparison game. I'm just like, it's just great to be here, guys. I think saving my life has made that my catchphrase. Okay, like even if it's like a hard day at work, I just remind myself, it's great to be here, to just be alive. I hope that never wears off, honestly, because it's definitely like the best thing that's ever happened to me. Being grateful for life.
Yeah.
Sorry, that wasn't OP related. Well, I did the SF play thing, SF sleep and NT sleep.
No, yeah, I got you.
Yeah.
What about, I think you mentioned briefly, like super briefly in this interview, just being masculine DE. I mean, how are you? I guess what I'm asking is, how are you feeling about being masculine DE these days?
How am I feeling about being masculine DE?
Yeah.
I don't know, like, I guess okay. Sorry, I'm just gonna put my hair up. I don't understand the question.
I'm just basically trying to ask around basically masculine DE. That's all I'm trying to ask about.
Masculine DE. Well, yeah. Oh, one thing I've been processing. See, I'm just pulling out my sleep. Okay. I think you know this too, because I tell you everything I process, right? About how masculine DE is like the bad guy. I listened to Billie Eilish's "I'm the bad guy." I'm not gonna do it, right? And I was like, oh my god, I know why she wrote this. She's masculine DE.
Right.
No, maybe, but I have to let go of this idea that I'm the bad guy. I don't know why, but ever since I got typed and like looking at all the classes where they're like, haha, that masculine DE person thinks that they're being bullied, but they're the bully. And I'm like, am I the bully? Like, maybe sometimes, but it can't be every time, right? That's like unrealistic.
Right.
So sometimes in like conflicts or conversations, I have to pull back and be like, I can't look at myself as the monster every time. And I have to kind of be balanced here and not say sorry so much, or like, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, like, it's OP. I mean, there's a lot to OP, like being Demon and I, being Demon Blast, stuff like that. But I mean, it's been a while since I've really delved into OP, so we don't have to talk about it too much if we don't want to.
I'm good. Whatever you want to do, that's good. Let's go. Let's smash these people with double mask and SF. Like we could talk about that. Like we're both double mask and SF, right? Double feminine NT. Like,
yeah.
What's that been like for our friendship? Or
yes, I mean I can answer that. So it's like the way that I've described our friendship, and I don't know if you remember this, but it's like there's a show called Russian Doll. How do I describe Russian Doll to people? Okay, basically it's this story about aren't they like repeating the same events over and over again? Wasn't that the basic concept?
Basically, she would die. They would die, and then like they would relive that day.
Yeah.
And they're trying to figure out why they died the first time to kind of figure out if that has meaning or something.
Yes, and so there were two characters that basically were experiencing this loop, and they find out that they're connected somehow. And that's how I would describe our friendship. I call it Russian dolling. Like it's like we have a Russian doll friendship. So it's like we're experiencing things in parallel is how I would describe things. So what do I mean by that? Like, this is actually kind of hard to describe because it's like I haven't really described our friendship to anyone else.
It's kind of personal.
It's
good. It's good. I don't even know if people are interested, but
yeah, I know, right? But
it's like I don't know. Like, let's just do it anyway. Like, who cares? Like, this is for us. So
yeah. So
I would say like there have been times when I've been describing something that I'm going through, and you're like not just saying, but almost like you completely understand that thing.
Mm-hmm.
Is that kind of what you're trying to say? It's almost been happening at the same time as well, right?
It happens at the same time, which is why I call it the Russian doll effect. It's like we're going through similar journeys at around the same time.
Yeah.
And I don't know why that is. I don't know if it's partially because we're like a similar age and so we're processing things in parallel.
Yeah.
I don't know, but that's been. I'm trying to think of an example. That's the hardest thing for me with examples, right?
Okay, I'll try and do that for you. I think it's the stuff about like what was it? I think it might have been last summer, maybe even, or I mean, it happens actually quite often. You know, when we do our we'll talk and stuff. It's almost like we're both processing self-compassion or certain topics at the same time, and like self-worth. Like when I mention it, and you're like, yeah, like, or you'll mention something, and I'm like, yeah, that made no sense. But it makes sense to you?
Yeah, I'm following it. Yeah.
Yeah. Cool.
So that's how I would describe our friendship is just life being processed in parallel. In terms of being feminine NT versus double masculine SF, I do remember like our double masculine SF, it just leads to a lot more punchiness in terms of what we're into.
Oh, like, yeah.
That I do remember, like music, for example.
Yeah.
You seem to have like a very distinct, sharp taste in music.
Like when you'll share something. Oh, I remember the first time we shared music, and I was like, was I insensitive or something? Was I like, oh,
no,
huh? No, must have been someone, I don't know. Like I was basically like, oh, this is like your FI thing, but like on the spectrum, it didn't hit me or something. I don't know.
Oh, maybe. I don't remember.
Maybe. But like, anyway, that's an aside. But generally, we tend to share quite intense songs, right? We're like, this one, go listen to that. And it's like, oh, yeah, I can take that.
Right.
Like, we can both take it. And it's really like punchy. And also when we're dealing with conflict with each other, we can hit hard, right? No, not physically, guys. Don't worry. He would ruin me as a guy. I get it. I'm not one of those feminists that's like,
I don't know about that. You've been working out. You've been working out. Huh? I said you've been working out, so I don't know.
Yeah, I've been lifting. But no, yeah, like I feel like I don't have to fear you getting upset at me, you know? Yeah. I can tell you how it is. And you can,
it's pretty.
Do you kind of do the same? I don't feel like with the NT, that's where you're telling me how it is, and I'm like, I'm able to like adapt, even though it's NT sleep. I feel like it's still.
This is where it gets hard for me to identify, because with so for me with double feminine NT play, it's like I'm literally, the way I describe double feminine NT play is like I'm literally doing it in the moment. I'm figuring things out in the moment with the other person. And I'll forget what I said afterwards. So it's like I don't even remember like half of those
Yeah.
conversations. So it's like, I'm sure I probably would say something that would strike you, but it's like, I for the life of me, I couldn't remember what I said.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. You've really helped me with that. I feel like my NT sleep kind of fits in to like the spectrum of NT that you have. And you obviously, for you, it's a savior, right?
Yeah.
So it's like immediately like there's somewhere that something that you'll say and I'll be like, I identify with that, or you understand me. And
Yeah.
you're just like, I'm just waffling. Like
Talking. Yeah, just talking.
and I'm like, oh, I thought it meant something.
Okay.
What about me? Do I do that with your SF? Am I like SF
Um
spectrum? And you're like, I like these kind of shirts, and I'm like, yeah, cool.
I would say, so I mean, I'm a pretty sensitive person, I would say.
I forgot
So
there
it's
were
like,
people here, you know. Sorry.
huh?
Go ahead. I forgot this was live. Go ahead. I feel like we're
All
just
right,
having
yeah.
a chat.
So it's like, I would say, I can be a pretty sensitive person at times.
Yeah.
And so there are things that I feel like sometimes you'll do that I think are personal, but it's just, you're just being social. Like,
Oh.
whether it's like sharing certain stories with me or like sharing pictures or things like that.
Mm,
Like,
mm.
that type of stuff I get rather, I'm like, oh, okay, it wasn't personal. Like, you were just sharing that just to
Oh,
share that.
shit. I'm
Right.
so sorry.
No, that's fine. I mean, it's like, that's life. Like, um, but that's how I would describe it. Is just like, I'm like, oh, there's certain things that, like life events, things that happened. It's like I usually am like, oh, this wasn't just with me.
No, but like I feel that because I know that about you, I feel like we try to make those things clear. Like for example, if it's an SF thing, because I know it means something to you, it's almost like we sort of make sure we're aligned on it meaning something to both of us. And same with NT. Like I feel like, yeah, most of the time when you're doing NT, you're probably not consciously doing it in a way that's like, this is going to mean. But I think when you know I'm processing something important in the
Right.
NT, you will go, okay, look, I've thought about this. Like, yeah, I've
Right.
got a spectrum, but I really think this one will resonate. And I think we kind of do that for each other.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
That's about it for OP. So I'm just gonna check my notes real quick to see.
Imagine if this was it. To be fair, I think Alexa's interview was about an hour as well.
Yeah, I think it's ended right here. So there are a few things that I think you wanted to talk about. So did you
Yeah.
talk about, so there's a note here that says failure within the journey, realizing how deep addiction goes, forcing deeper work. Did you get into that?
Oh, failure. The failure
Yeah.
thing. I kind of went into it, but not really. But basically, because I feel like we've kind of moved away from that topic, so I'll summarize it. I had a bit of failure in January. What I mean by that is I kind of went back to some old habits, like not all of them, but like I went to the grocery store. I had like a really bad root canal reaction thing where I was like really nervous about it. And I also had an essay due that same weekend. And then also other personal stuff was happening. And it was just so much that I kind of allowed myself to have a few things that I shouldn't really have had or that weren't nutritionally beneficial. And I remember writing a lot during that week, and it was just a few days, but still it affected me to see me kind of go backwards. And I acknowledged how deep the addiction was. It was like almost a second reflection. And I remember at the beginning, I was like, oh, at the beginning of the journey, I accepted that I was an addict. It was like I had to re-accept the addict thing. And it was almost like reminding myself, okay, addict for life, dude. Like don't forget who you are. Don't forget where you came from. This is not as in this is who I am identity wise, but this is what happened to lead to this situation.
Mm-hmm.
Don't go back to this addiction, this habit. And so treat yourself with care, essentially. And I treated myself with way more care. And I was like, okay, here are the things that I've been allowing to happen still that are not beneficial. And so it almost forced me to go even deeper into, why am I doing this? What's the nutritional benefit of this thing? What is the point of this thing? Why do I, do I exercise? Do I do this thing? And it was like a deeper layer of like change after January. It was so good. It definitely led me to this point, and it led me to this idea of, oh, I'm so malleable. I can change. I can become better and better, and to the point where I'm at now that I never imagined. I always had this idea of like, oh, this is as far as it will probably go. Demon and I predicting wrong. And then the more information I got, the more I was like, oh, there's no limit. The limit does not exist to those mean girls, people who like mean girls. Sorry, it's a Mean Girls reference. The limit does not exist. And I was like, oh, wow, I can like become anything. This is cool. Wow. Yeah. And I still think that now. I'm like, I'm not consciously thinking of what other changes I can make. It's more so like, oh yeah, like I can do this at the gym. I want to try this thing next, And in terms of nutrition, my diet, my food is all whole foods. But I just apply it to life now instead of just nutrition. It's like, I never thought I would ever be able to be, a certain role in my school. And now I'm going to carry that role. I'm going to do this other thing. And it's like, stop trying to predefine yourself, you silly, stupid identity person. Like, DI is not real. Like, just move, do the thing. It's about what you do and the actions you take that become who you are. It's not, I predefine myself. Make sense?
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm sort of getting charged up.
That was good.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, it's powerful. I think it's powerful. I'm just looking through the notes to see if we caught anything else. Someone just actually did ask a question. Let me actually ask this to you now. So with the addict for life thing, did you ever think that if I'm going to struggle forever, might as well not try? And if so, how did you push through that?
Well, because I'm not struggling. What? Okay, sorry. What I mean by addict forever, because obviously, like, I don't think that makes sense. It's not congruent with what I'm saying about identity. So I'm not saying I am an addict, but it's more like I know I have these addictive impulses that, okay, I'm not about to test out with like drugs and stuff. Be like, do I have an addictive personality? I'd like rather not. But it's the kind of thing where I know where to go. So I think before, yeah, there was this element of, let me just accept who I am. I fit somewhere on the SF spectrum, right? There are really big people out there who get love and like who feel confident and who feel happy in life, right? But it was this sense of, it hurts too much not to try. It just hurts too much not to try. Like it's the hurt and the struggle at the beginning of this journey. Yes, it was very tough and lonely, but nowhere near as painful as where I was when I was depressed and basically suicidal.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah, nothing matches that pain. Well, I'm sure in the future, at some point, there will be pain that will be hard. I'm sure if I get to be being a parent, there will be difficulties I've never experienced before. I'm not trying to say like I can conquer everything. Hopefully. But there is this sense of that I don't want to go back to that pain. There's nothing that hurt me more in life than what I did to myself.
Right.
And controlling yourself is the best way to alleviate that pain.
Right.
Yeah.
Got you. Hopefully that answers that question. Hopefully. Okay, so the last note that I see here, I'm not sure. I honestly am not sure I understand it, but
that was probably me. I wrote misc.
The misc.
Desire to test out on self. I think I mentioned that, this idea of like, okay, well, if I'm gonna help people, let me test this whole thing out on myself. I wanted to make this thing my own. Like the other day, the amount of people, okay, not that many, but some people have been like, oh, have you had surgery? And I'm like, no, that was the one thing I was trying not to do. But people have been like, oh, so what did you do? Right? That's one of the big questions that people ask when people lose weight. And I was like, I didn't do anything. I like made it up myself. And they were like, can you write it down for me? And I was like, yeah, sure. Like people are forcing me to blast, and I'm like, oh, fine. But yeah, so this idea of testing out myself, making sure that it fits me and my TI and my way of life and what I want to do. And then the other thing I wanted to talk about was one time I had a dream, and this is around, I think, January time, maybe around when I thought I had that second failure, the only failure in the journey. And I had a dream that I was climbing a mountain, but then suddenly I stopped climbing and I could fly. And I was just flying everywhere I wanted to go. And I was like, this is the feeling I want to have in life. I want to feel like I'm flying, like I'm that free of the weight that was not the physical weight. Well, okay, cool. But like the metaphorical weight that I was holding on to. That was on me, that feeling of depression and stuff. And yeah, so that's basically it. We wrapped up.
Okay.
No, I'm just kidding. Yeah.
There's one more question. I know it's kind of like a silly question, but so Benjamin was asking, Nora, what's the meaning of life?
Oh, 42, Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy.
Nice.
Yeah.
That was easy. All right. So I would say, I mean, I don't have anything else. I think this was a really meaningful conversation.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if you have anything else that you wanted to share, like maybe some parting words for anyone that you want to inspire.
Let me check my notes. Why is this on my notes? No, I really do want to help people. Okay. Think of yourself as dead. You have lived your life. Now take what is left and live it properly. Some Stoic quote.
Okay. And so, yeah. Like, what about that speaks to you?
Oh, okay. So basically, that I was dead, that this is my second life, that I basically killed who I was, killed this feeling of like being an identity, and now I'm just feel like, I feel reborn. So I feel like no matter how far in the game you are, where you're at like in life, it's not too late to change, to turn around, to do something different. Yeah.
Nice. Okay.
Well, I have a question for you before we go.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah? I'm sure people are wondering, what's next for your channel?
What's next for my channel? Oh my God. I don't know. One thing that I've been doing is I've been processing the social types, social number 1 specifically, because that's what my type is. Mm-hmm. So I might start making some videos about that. Just to kind of help me process. I'm actually also working on a blog post about social type number 1s as they relate to certain things. So that might be something I might do short term. But long term, I don't know. I don't really know who I would want to interview. I don't know who would want to interview with me. People are busy, like people have lives. So it's like,
they know what to do. They'll reach out to you. They see this video.
They'll reach out. Yeah. If anyone wants to get interviewed, just reach out. I'll take care of you. So that's about it. Yeah.
Well, thank you for answering my question.
Yeah, no worries. So yeah, and thank you so much for having this conversation with me. I think it was pretty meaningful. I'm definitely gonna watch it back and try and gain some insights for my own self. Especially, I'm actually like, confession time. I'm also trying to get on like a weight loss journey myself because I've actually gained a bit of weight. So it's like this conversation, especially the conversation with like changing the identity and stuff like that, I think is going to be pretty powerful for me as we kind of move forward. So I appreciate it. I thank you. And I'm glad that you kind of went on this journey, and now that you're kind of coming back around to inspire other people and go on their journeys.
Hopefully.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right.
Okay.
Well, thank you everyone for watching. Hope you guys are doing well. Feel free to leave a like and a comment or whatever the hell. I don't like whatever the hell you want to do.
Subscribe to this channel.
Subscribe, whatever the hell you want to do.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then, I'll see you guys in the next video that I make, I guess. So take care.